Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Munoz. Each episode, I bring on really amazing, great folks who are doing game changing work. And today's episode is no different. I am super excited to have Nancy Chang, who's the founder of Purpose and Hope, an amazing company. What she's doing to help folks in California is incredible and super impactful. Can't wait to hear her story. So take a listen. Hey, Nancy.
Hi, how's it going?
Oh, it's Friday. Yay. I'm happy for it to be Friday.
Yes.
So, the way the podcast works, it's always the same, and the answers are always amazing, and I have no doubt yours will be great too. Nancy, what was your first job?
My first job out of college, I actually was hired by a rental car company, Enterprise. I went through their management training program, and
Uh-huh.
it was one of those jobs where, they have a whole career path set forth for you. And so I stayed at that job for about 11 years. So when I started as a car rental person in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is where I'm from. And then they helped transfer me to the Bay Area, which is how I ended up in Oakland. And by the time I left, I was doing corporate account management. And so that was my first real job out of college.
It's really funny. So I love folks who started their career at Enterprise Rent a Car. You know how I know this? My best friend started her career there, and our very first employee at my agency, when I owned my own shop, was from Enterprise Rent a Car, and was phenomenal. And now he's gone on to do amazing work. So there is something really unique and special about this training program because apparently, if you can survive it and be there a while, you learn everything and you know how to manage the world and do it in a really special way.
Yeah, they have that corporate belt for you to experience. So yeah, definitely it's good. It's good for people to get diverse experiences, and I'm grateful for mine for when I was there for sure.
Awesome. So obviously you didn't stay at Enterprise forever, and now you're on a podcast. You're doing something uniquely different. So what's been that career journey like since Enterprise?
It actually started taking place when I was there. And so for me personally, I think I overstayed a little bit at a job that I just felt was kind of like a safety net, or it just felt like it was I don't know. I think sometimes when we stay at places longer than we should, it just feels kind of like a lull, like a comfort zone that then feels kind of like you're not really sure how to get out of it. When I started at Enterprise, I had the idea that I wanted to transfer, and that was one of the main reasons why I took the job. And so after my first year, or before my first year it ended there, they transferred me to the Bay Area. And then probably about 3 months after I was transferred here, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, which is the inspiration for Purpose and Hope. And so, you know, I just, when I'm seeing my mom go through the cancer experience, and then after she passed away, there was just something distinct about wanting to do something that was meaningful and that made sense of that journey with her, like a contribution back to that community. And so while I was working in my full-time job, this desire, this business idea of wanting to make nourishing foods for people that are recovering from cancer treatment to feel inspired to feel better or to feel engaged with their health or empowered in some way. It was just such a deep seed that was planted with my mom's journey. And so when I was working at Enterprise, there was this whole internal tug around, do you do what's safe, or do you do what is absolutely risky but is like feels like the most authentic path to, kind of break free into? And my family, we're very conditioned to go the safe route. And so the idea of starting a business, of doing something independent without having that sense of large corporate net of providing you the benefits, the sense of safety, it really forced me to face things inside of myself that were highly uncomfortable, but ultimately completely transformed who I am as a person. And so the journey started while I was in my career path.
Awesome. And thanks for sharing that. So, about finding this purpose, like, tell us about purpose and hope.
Yeah, so Purpose and Hope, what we are is we are a broth-based, nutritionally dense soup service. And so what we do is we handcraft kind of plant-based, phytonutrient diverse soups, with ingredients that are complementary for somebody that just wants to work on their health. But when it was first started, it was really keeping this demographic in mind. And so as I was trying to figure out how to make this happen, originally my mom had passed away in 2008. I took a business planning class in 2012 in San Francisco at this organization called Renaissance Center, which was great. And then I ended up winning their best business plan award. And then that for me gave me the drive to take holistic nutrition classes in Berkeley at a school called Bowman College. And that was really great education for me. But then piecing all of those things together as a single person 10 years ago, you know what I mean? Like the amount of capital, the amount of resources, everything that was needed in order to even start a business, it just was so scary and so overwhelming. And it completely made me shy away from the idea. And for many, many years, I was constantly talking myself out of it. But every single thing that would somehow relate back to this idea just felt like this like scratchy throat syndrome, where you're just kind of like, oh, I feel like there's something really valid here to try to explore, but I'm too scared. And so it really took several years later. I met this wonderful person. His name is Ali. He's a mentor of mine, and we're still great friends, and I'm so grateful for him. But I had completely tried to turn away from my business, and this is many, many years of just trying to reject out of fear. And then he is just such a wonderful person where he said, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And so it was like, obviously, this is this thing that I've been trying to bury, and so he was telling me, if you could just look into it, just go talk to people and find information, and let's just see what you can find, and with his support, it really allowed me to do things like I made some big adjustments where I left my job at Enterprise. I was doing like lots of like independent contractor work, lots of odd jobs and things like that. So then I had the schedule availability to do a lot of volunteer work, to attend workshops, to go to organizations that helped people that were going through cancer or that were unhoused, because these are things that were important to me. So it's just kind of like a information collecting kind of time period of my life where I just threw myself into complete uncertainty, and then just from scratch was like finding people that can help. And so along that journey, I met this incredible oncology dietitian who has been so supportive and just given me so much insight. And so for her, she had encouraged, because I was thinking, if you're wanting to serve somebody that isn't feeling well in this particular way, how do you help them? And so she had said that for her experience, and she worked clinically for like 20 to 30 years in the field, we're kind of ideating like what would be the most helpful for people. And so she had said people that she has seen that tended to do better in recovery engage with like regularly consuming like traditional foods, like things that were like slow cooked, soupy, brothy based things. Like it's easier on the digestion system, and it's also easier for people to absorb the nutrients. It's gentler on their gut. And so that's why we ended up starting with soups. And so it's just, I don't know, it's been a complete process, and it's been something that forced me to break the mold of everything that was kind of constructed for me going into, just having to learn how to like live life in a totally different way financially. And then also giving myself the freedom to kind of like give myself the permission to talk to people that I would originally think were completely out of my league or too good to help me. And then just experiencing such kindness and generosity through these people that completely encouraged the path to being where I am now. So it's literally just been this mishmash of like incredible people that have kind of boosted me along the journey to get here. So I just am so, I don't know, I feel like whenever people are trying to figure out how to do something authentically that speaks to who they are, when there's that bravery to ask, sometimes the world just provides you with like opportunities that exceed your expectation.
Yeah, that's beautiful and so accurate because it is, I think one of the things that folks often don't mention about being an entrepreneur is that like the types of folks who come in your life, um, or you think there's no way you're gonna be able to figure it out, and then you end up meeting people who are like, oh hey, like that's a great idea, or hey, like there's someone you should know because like what you're doing is awesome. And I always look at it as because like it's the more you put out, good you put out in the world, the more it comes back to you in so many surprising and delightfully good ways. And that's part of the journey of being an entrepreneur. Doesn't mean any shape or form things are going to be sunshine and lollipops, but there is always this sort of unique set of like goodness that you end up walking into on your journey as an entrepreneur, where it's like I had no idea this would happen, and then lo and behold, there you go.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. And I think what's amazing is like, not that it always happened this type of timing, but many times where it was like this pit of despair and like just like, okay, let's go back to like the original plan, which is follow the status quo. Something, some person, some class, some sign, you know what I mean, would always pop up and be like, here is actually, I'm going to just kind of encourage you to just even go through that one other intersection in a different way, you know? And so it's just, it is amazing. And I, yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. It's just when we are vulnerable and we share, like, I think if that opens up a part of somebody else that, you know, can just really inspire generosity or encouragement for you in a way that can be very transformative.
it really is. I mean, I always make a joke that early on in my entrepreneurial journey, one of the most impactful things was I went the wrong way. I
Oh,
was going
yeah.
to I went to an event, and like the event I was supposed to go in was on the right hand side of the building, and I went on the left side of the building to a whole other party. And my name wasn't on the list, but they're like, oh, you sound like you should be here. Come on in. And then there I would meet two really impactful folks that would help validate what we were building as some of our very first speakers at our events. And they would go on to become great friends to this day, over a decade later. And it was like, and it was in that moment where like we 100% were vulnerable, said, we're new at this, we think you're awesome, we promise if you come through, we'll be great. And you have this sort of moment of vulnerability, but also this moment of grace and of fearlessness. But like, I want to try this. So same deal. Like, you're like, what if you tried this? What would happen? And lo and behold, there it goes.
Yeah.
That's the really awesome gift around entrepreneurship, and it's so necessary. And I think countlessly over the decade and plus of doing this that I've seen it so many times for so many folks. So it really is sort of the magical gift of being an entrepreneur. So okay, so you're running this business. So talk to me about a time you had a challenge. You're like, there's no way you're gonna get through with this, and then you did.
Oh my gosh, I think I'd probably give you like 1,000 examples. Like,
I'm sure.
yeah, for me, I don't know, when I first started this journey, you know, like that sense of self-confidence, that sense of clarity, that sense of like, I don't know, I guess just like take the bull by the horns, like that was just never me. Like I just came from like a place where I was much more self-deprecating, self-doubting, procrastinating, and fearful, you know, but I don't know, I think there's just something really interesting about being in the process, you know, of like beginner's mind, you know, because a lot of times
You
I
don't
feel
know. What
like,
you don't know, you're just like, all right, sure.
yeah, there's like the fraudulent side, there's the self-doubter side, there's like, you know, like the I don't see how this could even equate to anything. Like those were all things that were just like a natural part of who I was, and it was just like anything that was important, you know what I mean? It would just be so like put off because I was too scared because it wasn't perfect and I didn't know how to make it perfect. And then I would judge myself based off of those beliefs and not try. And then when I did try, it was like much easier than I thought it would ever be. And like, and then I did something, and sometimes I'd make things that were like kind of beautiful and fun, but it's just like all of the stories that took place before that. I really at many points was like, I don't know how I could ever be somebody that could even have enough, like, position myself to even have the momentum to do something that is like clear, responsible, consistent, reliable, all of those things. Um, but yeah, I think it was just really allowing that process to happen, like I judged myself a lot, I flailed a lot, I cried a lot, and then there's also just like the bravery just to like ask a question to somebody and to be given the insight and to feel the support, and all of those things. It just kind of like a drop in the bucket, one by one, it just kind of built into me, and then I think when you start seeing that happening, for me, it's just, it made those things that were really scary, really daunting, really hard feel like a little bit more insightful, and like, and then just building that up, and I think that if I hadn't had gone on this journey, I think I'd be much closer to who I was, because taking the path of entrepreneurship was just so confronting, and it also forced me to have to look at myself in different ways. That was really hard. I think it was also paired with my own dark night of the soul time period, where, you're not sure if you'll make it out or what it'll look like to get there. But, it's just really, for me, is like being able to just have the bravery to go to the places that offered information or people that cared about the same things that I did, and then just being open and receptive to learning. That helped a lot, and there's still things, when you start a small business, it's like you're constantly having to do and learn and like take care of things that are outside of what you know. And yeah, I think just learning how to embrace that versus fight it. So that's something for me as well, is just being a lifelong learner instead of being somebody that's fixed to my previous ideas of who I am.
So true. It's you there is so much you learn about yourself when you become an entrepreneur, where you're like, oh, this what? Okay, this is bananas. Or you never know your own strength. And I think that's the biggest thing about entrepreneurship, that like looking back on it, you're like, there's no, if someone had told you years ago that you'd be doing this, like, there's no way I could ever step out on my own and go ahead and do this. Like, and
Yeah.
like, but you did. And that alone is one of the best gifts you can give yourself. Like it's a whole new confidence that no matter where you end up and what you end up doing in the future, the fact that you took that step out and became an entrepreneur, you know, gives you this special power, to look at the world just differently and with more boldness and more creativity. So it is a really unique set of circumstances to put yourself in, when you become an entrepreneur. So I was thinking about that. What do you think you'd tell 21-year-old Nancy?
Um, okay, what would I tell 21-year-old Nancy? I would tell her, not all things that glimmer is gold. Um, Quality over quantity. Um, Doing things that is meaningful is just as important as making money. And that there really is no certainty in life. So, conforming to the ideas of a corporation or a family structure or your ingrained societal beliefs, sometimes those aren't really necessarily true. And the power of listening to your intuition and your heart is like is the way to go, not to force yourself to fit in with what you think is right, but like acting on what you know is right, what is true for you. And then like finding that ecosystem of people that amplify and highlight like the best of your dreams and like the best of yourself, like not in an ignorant, egocentric way, but in an inspired way of creation.
Yeah, I think it is so true. Like the ecosystem, like, the friends I have now who I've met through my entrepreneurial journey, like are friends I have for life.
Hmm.
And I know how folks say, oh, it's hard for you to make friends in your 30s. Be an entrepreneur. Like you will make friends.
Yeah, we're all getting spanked together, so we have
Yeah.
lots of similar things to talk about.
Yeah, you sort of end up having this sort of really awesome kind of ride or die crew of folks that you end up building, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. But again, it's another muscle that you learn to grow, where it's like it was harder to do when you were younger, but now you're like, actually, I have to seek out people who are my tribe, who understand my suffering. Like, yeah, like they get it. They just like, what are you doing? Like, oh my God, like I know, oh my God. So
I think what
like.
you say is really important, though, like having people that can actually understand that journey if you're on it, because I think a lot of times it can feel really isolating, and it can feel really like your vision is being misunderstood, and so I just want to highlight what you said, because I think that's super valid. um, Being with people that share similarities on your journey, and that can be with anything, right? But entrepreneurship, especially, I think is such a unique path, to where if you have people that you can talk to about, like, I feel this way, I feel very scared, or I feel, like I need to find resources around things, I think that is like tremendously gives people a leg up.
Yeah, it's really, really important and necessary. So obviously you're on this entrepreneurial journey and doing a lot of great work. What do you do for Nancy? Like what do you do for your self-care?
Well, this year is probably the year where like I have pulled myself in like so many directions, just to try to keep my business going and all of the things around that, as far as like my life and friendships and relationships, where it was very clear to me that self-care is like very, very important. I think a lot of times we overwork ourselves, in the pursuit of growth, for our business. But a lot of times, what I've learned is, for me on my journey, what I've come to realize this year is, my growth doesn't have to be the same as like the way other people grow, right? Because like my team, the people that support me, my customer base, like who I am, like what I have the bandwidth for, is going to be different from somebody that, you know, may have like departments or more agencies like helping them, and so I think what I've learned is, like have a goal, but don't like kill yourself trying to get it as quick as possible, because I think there's going to be a lot of things that will just come up organically, that will be unexpected, that are also great opportunities, and to leave space for that. And then also, it's like the self-care aspect is so important. Like, I think for me, it's just my life is like completely centered around the operation of my business. But it's like having that time to like talk with friends, go on a hike or a walk, exercising, eating well for myself, you know what I mean? Like, not taking on so many things that then I just feel stressed out and like pulled too thin. Those are all things where it's just like I'm living kind of my normal life. I'm focusing completely on my business, but I'm not pressuring myself to go way bigger, way faster than than I can in the current moment. Um, and and yeah, and really prioritizing like what are the relationships that are important, and like not that, not every relationship needs like constant maintenance or anything, but how do you keep those bonds feeling like they're tight, that they're reciprocal, and that the other person feels honored as well, like giving love and receiving love from the people that we care about and making time for that, outside of just working, just trying to hit your KPI markers and all that stuff. It's like, how do we still be a person and just do the things that we enjoy and to like make time for it? Sometimes scheduling it, even though that feels weird, but like how do you retain your authentic self so then you feel like a whole person instead of like a robot or a shell that is just trying to like, make a business happen. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important things that you can do from a self-care standpoint when you're an entrepreneur is understand that the word no is a sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just no. No explanation, no reason as to why, just no.
Yeah.
Because you have to. And I think as you and I talked before, but I did not prioritize self-care and it was very detrimental. And so I spout this from the rooftops to anyone who, and actually in my day job now of being an executive, but before when I was an entrepreneur, I say this loudly, like, please take time for yourself, find something to do, go do something, whatever it may be, and give yourself some grace. Because if you don't, it'll bite you. There's just no universe where it does not bite you back. Like your body can't withstand that. And on top of that, we've been through a pandemic, and that alone makes things even more hyper aware because you're just like, whoo, wow, lots of people died. This is really terrible. This is
Hmm.
like bad for my mental health, like being stuck inside. So all of those things compounded on the uncertainty of a pandemic outside um, requires folks to go for the hike, go for the walk, prioritize friends, but also prioritize relationships. So it's like, you have the friends who are your entrepreneur friends, and you have your friends who are your friends you've had for years. Those can
Hmm.
be two different groups. They don't have to intersect. I have awesome friends who I've known for years, and I do not talk about work with them. And I
Yeah.
have my entrepreneur friends who I will, my ride and eyes will just shit about the stuff. And sometimes those groups can cross over, but if they don't, it's also okay. That's fine too. And then your friends you have like who are kind of sitting somewhere in between, also good. All of which are really important in terms of like helping to make you you as you try and live your life. So I
Yeah.
I I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too where it's like know your audience, right? It's like if we're going through something, picking the right person that can be either encouraging or to be listening or to like, you know, be upset with you or whatever, like finding like, being strategic about like if I have something going on, who's the best person to kind of like have this dialogue with? Because, as you were saying, it's not always, you know, not everything, not every relationship, can hold the space for like all the things, all the topics, all the challenges that you're going through. So, a lot of times we want to get support, but also thinking about like, who is the best person that could help me with this particular thing to help me feel like clear or clean or like relieved of the stress.
Yeah, who is your friend who's just like, let's go party? Like that friend is important to have and not get rid of because, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I have to be all serious now. Like, no. Like, who's the person you go hiking with? That you should keep that friend.
Hmm.
Everybody has, and those relationships with friends that end. There are going to be folks who are going to be in your life for a season, and you may have known them for a minute, or you might have known them for a long time. And they're in your life for a moment that mattered. And if that moment continues, great. But if that moment ends, that's also okay. Um, those are
Yeah.
that's just it's a part of the road that you have to be on. And I think the more that we're honest about that stuff, again, giving ourselves that grace, giving ourselves the ability to be like, no, this is not what I'm going to do, and keep it moving, is imperative.
I agree. Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot, right? Like living life with an open hand, like not clinging to people, but like allowing people to come in organically to come and stay as long as the time feels right. And so always having like this sense of like opening instead of like where we have this relationship, so it must be executed in like XYZ, otherwise it's invalidated or something.
Right. Like
Yeah.
you've been a terrible friend. So, oh my God, what have
You
you done?
didn't call me and it's Tuesday. We're talking, it's like, yeah, it's like letting people have their lives and to come together in a natural and beautiful way that feels mutual.
Yeah, it's all going to be fluid. I think that's a part of, again, because of the fact we've had the pandemic and relationships have just
Yeah.
drastically changed.
Hmm.
People have moved. People are not as accessible. People are or more accessible. All of it has changed and allowed people to reassess.
Yeah.
So last question for you.
Okay.
Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience? So this could be anything where it could be like, please buy my product, or it could be anything you want.
Sure. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I do. I have a an ask that equates to a give. And so my business, there's a aspect of it because for me, when I fell in love with the healing power of food and was too scared to start my business, what I did here in Oakland was I participated in a lot of food projects, so feeding people that were unhoused. And so it really showed me just how food is like kind of this equalizer, right? Like we all have to eat, and if we all take care of each other, there's like this really beautiful kind of like bond that happens through cooking for somebody and seeing them enjoying the food and to nourish their bodies. And so when I started my business, even before, I always wanted to do something that incorporated some sort of equity. And so in my business, there's a soup sponsor program. I'm not a nonprofit, but I have people that donate to the soup sponsor program. And what that does is it allows me to make soups that are then given to people that to two oncology nonprofits here in the Bay Area. One is called the Charlotte Maxwell Clinic, and the other one is the Women's Cancer Resource Center. And so every month I've been donating for the past year to these two organizations. And actually this week we donated our 500th soup. And so if anybody has interest or the ability to help with the soup sponsor program, it is something that just is incredibly meaningful to me. The feedback that I've gotten from the community has been just what makes my business just feel really special and really just like there's something good there to explore. And so even if you can't, no problem, but if you know of anybody that would be interested in helping this particular aspect of purpose and hope, that would just be amazing. And so if anybody knows anybody that would love to be a soup sponsor, that helps me give to the community. And most of the people that receive the soups are food insecure. And so, it's like when we are dealing with a critical illness, what I've been shocked to find is that the likelihood of somebody becoming food insecure, becoming homeless, all of those things, it multiplies. And food insecurity multiplies by 5 times. And so it's pretty significant. We all know healthcare in the United States right now leaves a lot of gaps. And so this is just kind of my way of trying to um, have an aspect of my business that acknowledges that and like tries to give to people in a way that just feels simple and dignified. So yeah, that's something that if that's available, please feel welcome to help.
Awesome. One, I will. Two, anyone listening should as well. Nancy, it's really interesting, so this is going to be a plug for my company. At my agency, VML Liner, we have what's called Foundation Day. And it's a day where our offices are closed and we can find and we select different things that we can do to volunteer. And it's across the globe, so all of our global offices do this. And I had the wonderful pleasure of meeting you through I think it's Start Small Think Big program, and we did it virtually because like I travel a gazillion, as everyone knows, and I'm also oftentimes not actually in New York. And so I was able to have a wonderful chat with you and talk to you about your business, and was 100% blown away by what you've been able to build over the last few years. And I think on two fronts. One, what you're doing for folks who need it the most, but also just from healthy nutrition. I think it's so necessary for folks to know and understand. But the purpose and the hope that you are bringing to folks is just so deeply impactful. So I was 100% honored to have a chat with you. I was 100% honored to have you come join me on the podcast and talk about what you've done and share who you are. And I think we talked about like having you share who you are is kind of key to all of your story. But thank you so very much for the work that you do, your honesty and your vulnerability. And I will put this out on all of our channels, and I hope folks pay attention. Purpose and Hope is the name of the company. Buy these soups if you'd like to purchase them. Also, you can be a part of her amazing soup program for folks in the Bay Area. We know that folks who are food insecure need this help immensely, and it's the right thing to do. But Nancy, thank you so much, and I look forward to helping help you push forward on your amazing, amazing journey.
Oh, I'm so grateful to have met you. Like you're just, another one of these amazing angels that just kind of pop in through different intersections of this journey that makes the seed of hope feel like it's been planted. I think a lot of times when we're going through these journeys, we're just not sure how it's all going to happen. And it's really these relationships and these generous, amazing people like yourself that help small entrepreneurs like me feel like there's a place in the world for the work. So thank you as well. And thank you to everybody that's taken the time to listen.
Awesome. And that is our show.